YouTubers! Mike Martin's here, Mike Martin's channel. Thanks for joining me for another rants and lifestyle video. Okay, so I got somebody message me on my fan page the other night saying, Mike, we need to save Canada from Canada. How do we do that? Well, Canada is pretty much digging its own grave. And why is this happening? It just is. And it's due to poor politics, and we're not protecting the Canadian proper. And what I mean by Canadian proper, before I begin, is the same thing I say every time. It's everyone that's come from all over the world to make Canada a better place, that immigrated here to change the face of the country, to build it, to invest in the infrastructure, send their kids to school, and become Canadian. And adapt to becoming what it means to be Canadian before it dissolves and gets thrown into the wind like everything else. So the culture doesn't get thrown into the wind. Anyways, now, how do we start? What do we look at? Well, there's a few things we need to start. First thing, we should start with the healthcare system. Everybody knows, and it's not a conspiracy theory, that vaccines are a problem. Vaccines have been a problem since day one, and I mean, it's great that they want to vaccinate and find a way to protect us from all these viruses and blah, blah, blah. But a majority of the vaccines, they just don't work. And that's just my opinion. And I don't vaccinate my kids. And there's a person, I'm not going to mention who, I'm not going to say who, I'm not even going to tell what town they're in, but their kids are all vaccinated and they're all have ADT or have this or have that or have, what do you call it? After they take their vaccines, they get, I forgot what it's called. I forgot what the name is called. Anyways, so they get that. So all the kids have that. 4 kids. They're all like, you know what I'm saying? So anyways, and he told me, he's like, yep. He's like, I should have listened to you, Mike. But, you know, my wife's a teacher. And I kind of, you know, it's mandatory, or not mandatory, but the schools frown upon people that don't vaccinate their kids and stuff like that. So that's the problem. People following, not doing the do, but following others. And that's a huge problem that people face here in Canada, is doing what the others do. And, okay, so how do we get rid of the vaccine problem? Very simple. There was an article the other day that stated Bill Gates' doctor refuses to vaccinate his children. So Canada passes a law. The Bill Gates Vaccine Administration Law. Whatever vaccine Bill Gates administers to his children, we as Canadians should be applying it. So seeing that he's never going to apply a vaccine to any of his kids, even though they're so good, then what does that tell you? So we should pass that law. So the law basically is we're going to model one of the greatest businessmen in the world who's got a great mind to think and to protect his family is his #1 priority. So we just follow what Bill Gates does. So it's the great Canadian Bill Gates Vaccine Administration Law. Whenever Bill Gates administers a vaccine live to his children on camera, then we as Canadians should be administering it to our kids too. So that's the first law that passes, because this vaccine stuff that's happening now is going to be taxing on our next generation when it comes to healthcare problems and stuff. Because when I was a kid, nobody had all these problems that they have today. Nobody. We'd have a school assembly. All the kids would sit down, listen to the principal speak, everybody this, that, and that's it. We never had these problems that we're having today with these kids, like so many problems. So that's one problem. Jobs. How do we protect Canadian interests and jobs? Just do what happened to me in the U.S. When I went to the United States of America, I wanted to work for a technical, I was going to work for, I'm out of it right now, it's early in the morning. I was going to work as a technical director for 2 major production facilities down in South Florida. So for me to get that job, I had to make sure, they had to run ads to make sure that I wasn't stealing Americans' job. So they run ads in the newspapers for 6 months, then they ran cyber ads like on JobShark and Google and stuff to make sure I'm not stealing an American's job. So instead of just bringing in random people and hopefully getting them to find a job and contribute to the system, is really hard on Canadians and very taxing on Canadians. So why don't they just do what they did to me? When I went to the U.S., when the Bush administration was in power, if a Canadian wanted to go to the U.S., he had to make sure he wasn't taking an American's job. He had to make sure they had to advertise it, this and that, and then they have to go to a physical, and then they have to go to a meeting, and then I went to the meeting and they declined me. I'm like, but I don't have any criminal background. I've never been anything. I understand that, sir. But unfortunately, we're just not looking for your kind. And, you know, we're not approving people right now from this whatever. And I'm like, oh, okay. Oh, okay. So I did all that, paid $5,000 to a lawyer. So how do we protect Canadian interests and jobs? Instead of, like I said, instead of randomly, see, I'm an immigrant, my parents, we're all immigrants. We all immigrate to make this place a better place, to be free, to basically, in Canada, 20 years ago, all you had to do was work, and you get everything you want in this country. Now you have to work 3 jobs just to cover your rent. So what is happening? So why don't we do this? Instead of bringing in 500,000 people, that article I keep reading, they're bringing in 500,000 people from China, visas and stuff, but 97% of the people apply for permanent residency. Because I read that article, and somebody replied to me saying, oh, what's the problem? You can't read? These are visas. These are visas to come and work and stuff. Okay, but if they're coming to work, whose job are they taking when there's no jobs available for people? Like, there's nothing. I'm in this little store here, and I get 2 resumes a week. And I just say, sorry, I solo it most of the time myself, and that's about it. But you know what I'm saying? And I'm not picking on people from China, you know, I'm not picking on anybody from any culture. I'm just trying to understand. If they bring in 500,000 work visas to come in, 97% of them are going to apply for permanent status, right? And they're going to fast track it. So, but how does that work? How does that protect the Canadian proper that's here? The Canadian proper that's actually here, that's actually paying into the infrastructure to make ends meet. You know, I don't blame doctors and nurses for leaving. I don't blame them. They're leaving. They're going to Ocala, Florida. They're going to Jacksonville. They're going to Tallahassee. They're moving all over to different parts of the United States. And some of them are taking a cut in pay and having more money left over and having more, how do you say, more disposable income, because the cost of living is like 1/10 of the cost. How do we make Canada, how do we save Canada from Canada? Those are just some prime examples I just gave you guys right now. You know what I'm saying? There has to be something, especially if we could protect the Canadian proper's job. Okay, you know, I have a friend. He's from Turkey, and he's been working in the tech industry for years, and he had to go south. They wouldn't give him a raise. He wanted to buy his own house. They said no. So he moved south. He moved to Northern California. They offered him a huge pay hike, and they offered him a living allowance for a year. You know, even though it's more expensive stateside, they're getting desperate too. So I don't know what's going to happen. And for the housing, how do we fix the housing issue? You need to be a Canadian citizen to buy homes. That's it. There's nothing wrong with that. There's so many people, so many countries you go to where you have to be a citizen of the country to buy in their country. And not only that, you can't become a citizen in their country. So you see how they protect their own people? You see how they protect, like, and I keep saying the same thing, and then people keep telling me in the comments, you know, I try to buy in 2 states of Mexico, 2 times I try to buy free and clear. Free and clear, I was going to buy. A house in Guerrero, in the state of Guerrero, and a house in Puerto Vallarta, in Jalisco. I was going to buy a house in both, one in each state back in the day, and 2 different incidences. So not the same incidents, not the same broker, not the same real estate agent. Both times they said I couldn't buy it because I'm not Mexican or I'm not married to a Mexican, and it's very hard. The other people, the Canadians and the expats that do buy in Mexico, they're buying through fine line contracts. I spoke to my lawyer. I have a lawyer in Guerrero, in the city of Cuernavaca, and I spoke to him about 2 weeks ago when people told me no. I asked him, can I buy or what? Why are people telling me that they buy? Expats are living in Mexico. How could people buy? He's like, they can't, Mike. They're buying, but they're buying through contracts that are very one-sided contracts that protect the government and protect the country. So technically, yes, they own the place, but the government could come and take it in a heartbeat, which has been done before many times. So we need to protect Canadian interests first, and this is what's not happening. And so that's how a couple of ideas I have, you know, sprouting around. How to protect Canadians, how to protect Canadian interests going forward. Because we're on a downhill slope. It's a disaster. Everyone's pointing at parliaments. Everyone's pointing at governments. Yeah, government is that we need less governing. We need more independence. There's a lot of things. We could go on for hours. So that's what I covered right now. Health, the vaccine stuff. How to fix that problem, because that's going to be a huge problem in 20 years. You have no idea the amount of people that are going to need assistance because of these vaccines they're taking. You know what I'm saying? Autism. Yeah, it was autism. I have a friend who vaccinated a couple of his kids, and two of them got autism. One of them got polio. He's wearing braces on his legs, and I'm very I saw him. I was like, "Wow, I can't believe it." He's like, "Oh yeah, but they'll frown. You know, my wife's teacher, they'll frown. Now they'll frown against her. But now who's gonna? You know, you're responsible when you vaccinate your kids. You're responsible if something happens to them. You know." Anyways, I want to know what you guys think. So that's what I spoke about. I spoke about jobs protecting Canadian interests. You know what I'm saying? So let me know what you guys think. Is there a way to save Canada? Is Canada headed towards utter disaster? I hope it's not. I love this country very much, and that's why I want to voice an opinion. This is just my opinion. I don't know anything. I just want to know what you guys think about what's really going on in this world, in Canada. I know in Australia, it's the same thing that's happening. All these English-speaking countries are pretty much being taken over economically. It's an economic takeover. So we'll just have to play the waiting game and see what happens. Guys, thanks for watching, and let me know what you guys think in the comments below.